The man in black is a host. Now, I want to discuss several different ways that I think we've had this foreshadowed the entire time. I think the reveal of him being a host is going to be bigger than the reveal of Bernard back in season 1. Let's begin. Now, I want to start by saying at the point of this video going live, we've got, less than 12, maybe 12 and a half hours for, well, it depends on when you're watching this, but we'll find out if he's a host in this next episode. We've only got 2 episodes left in the entirety of Season 2, so there's going to be some major reveals, and I think this episode is going to end in a cliffhanger. That cliffhanger may be the big reveal. So, with that being said, I could be wrong, and if I'm wrong, we'll find out very shortly, so make sure you guys come back and let me know after you watch the episode, which will likely be before I put my breakdown up, admitting whether I'm right or wrong. But either way, let's jump into the theory. Okay, so the easiest source of evidence for this theory is by going to the promo for episode 9. 30-some seconds into it, and we're given several shots that are extremely significant to the fact that William is a host. One of them is of him holding a gun to his own head. We have seen this in the original trailer for Season 2, but the only way that the Man in Black would do this, because he has not shown any suicidal tendencies so far, as a fact, he's one of the characters on the TV show who wants to live the most, the only reason why he would be doing this is if he's being controlled by someone else. The only way that he can be controlled by someone else is if he's a host. So this is kind of like a dead ringer, and I should end the video right here. We don't need any further evidence to, So I guess we'll shift this into how long has he been a host. That's the real mystery there, right? And then we're given another, voiceover of, it sounds like Dolores, although it could be his daughter Emily, but it sounds like Dolores saying, "Tell me the one truth." And, he says no one can see it. And that is clearly the Man in Black saying it back to her. And then we're shown, as soon as he says, that, we're shown a picture of his daughter, Emily, which a lot of people down in my comment section and over on Reddit, in particular, my buddy Pete that I met at Con of Thrones, but he mentioned that if the Man in Black is in fact a host, one way to do the fidelity test, which is the same thing that he was doing to James Delos, that younger William, all the way up until older William, was doing with James Delos. Speaking of which, there's some significance to that, and I'm going to touch on it later on in the video. But shout out to Pete for, stacking up with this evidence. But one way that, they're leading or showing us that he's a host in this trailer is by having the line delivered of, no one can see. Right as William says that, his daughter Emily, or a younger version of his daughter Emily, pops up on the screen. When I do my videos, they're very much like a stream of conscious. So as I'm watching this trailer over and over, it looks like the speech, it's clearly the Man in Black speaking the entire time. But he says, "There's this thing in me. No one else sees it." So he could be having this conversation with Dolores, and this could be after he finds out that he's a host, and he's talking about the similarities between him and Dolores when they're first coming to their path to consciousness. And that's another thing that I've been learning about this show. I constantly look up the definition of what consciousness is, and there are many different meanings of it, and that's why this show is awesome, because it picked on that existential debate, or like the lifelong debate of what is our purpose here. Not only what is our purpose, but what is purpose in and of itself? What is consciousness in and of itself? Just going off on a super side tangent here, because we all know that I have ADD, but I want to share some of my knowledge of what I've discovered about what consciousness is. Obviously, we're all aware of ourselves, and that's like the basis level, but one of the things I discovered is that there are actually, many people believe, that there are actually 10 different levels to consciousness. Some people believe there are even more than that, but some of the ones I came across is level 0 is material stuff. So that's like your psychological needs, your input of nutritious food. You've got to eat, you've got to drink clean water, you got to have fresh air. And then level 1 would actually be freedom. So that's like you can safely express yourself, and you're able to output one's extra solids. And this image up here, as you can see, I'm basically trying to summarize that. And then level 2 is belongingness. That's connecting with basically your soulmate in life. And then there's effectiveness. But this goes on, and these are the different levels of consciousness. This is just something of how greatness the show is. Honestly, if the maze had became a pyramid, you would be able to fit this directly in with the show. Like, you could find one scene that directly relates to each level of this consciousness. So if you guys want me to work on a conscious theory video and what it means for the television show, and maybe what I think it means about the real world, let me know down below in the comment section. I hope you enjoyed this 1 minute tangent. Sorry, I had to get it off my chest. jumping back into this theory here, now I do want to clarify that I realize this conversation is most likely between William and his wife, although it could be between William and his daughter or William and Dolores, so that's what I'm entertaining here. What all this is leading up to is the fact that William maybe has willingly decided to become a host, not because he died, and that's what I thought maybe could have happened. Maybe he, got that same sickness that had happened out in the open world. But if you remember earlier on in the season, they can pretty much do everything, including bringing the dead back to life. So with this being the case, the Man in Black may have willingly became a host, but wanted to not remember that decision to become a host. And through this, all in season 1, he's on the path to the maze. What is the maze? The journey to consciousness. So all through season 1, he's on that journey. We're just seeing all the different hosts, their different versions of it. Sorry, let me reiterate. We're seeing in season 1 all the different hosts, their journey to consciousness. And we're seeing Williams the entire time. We just don't realize that. We think he's looking for answers to try to figure out what Bernard or what Arnold's game is, when really he's just like every other host, going through the maze, trying to find whatever consciousness is. And relating on back what I said earlier about how there's no way that William would willingly put a gun to his head and, come that close to ending his life. There's no way he would do that unless someone else is controlling him. There's another shot of him in the trailer using an FNP-90. I think I said that right. It's basically an automatic pistol. He's using this futuristic plastic-looking fake gun to kill people the same way Bernard did unwillingly when Ford mind raped him. So this is a little bit of, imagery to that same. There's probably something to the fact that he has one of these guns, so this means he must have killed one of the Delos soldiers, or they were in a gunfight and he's one of the last ones alive. And that's another thing that I mentioned in my episode 8 breakdown, was the fact that he survived so much, and the only other person who survived injuries like this is Dolores, and we know that she is a host. She's been one of the few characters that have been revealed to be a host this entire time. So I think one of the, not gimmicks, but one of the main draws, and it's one of the things that we thought we realized right away. Everyone thought the big mystery was how many timelines there are, and that was one of the big mysteries from season 1, but one that escaped my eyes, and I don't know if maybe you guys leave a comment down below if it escaped your eyes as well, is who is a host and who is not a host, and what is consciousness. So we're still on that journey to figuring out who is a host and who is not a host, and I honestly think that William could have chosen to go down this path. He found out what the maze was when he was still alive, when he was still human. So he went through with this process and trying to discover his humanity. The conversation that he's having may not be with Dolores and maybe with his daughter. Like I said, I'm not sure if it's with Emily, but he could be having this conversation explaining to Emily or Grace, whatever you want to call her, explaining to her why he wants to decide to go down the maze path, why he wants to end his life willingly but upload his consciousness into a human mind. At this point, the timelines are so murky, I'm not exactly sure if they've figured it out exactly. Like, if they figured it out perfectly, the way for a human mind to exist outside of the cradle. It may have already been perfected, and they could be keeping or kept that information away from Ford. Another possibility, and this may in fact be the more likely one, but the first one was more of my own crafting, and I felt like it was the more interesting one. But what may be happening is that William is still a host, and that's revealed in the next episode, but he's only been a host as of recent. So he doesn't even realize he's a host, and when he died at that initial board meeting, you remember when Dolores went crazy and shot Ford in the back of the head, which we find out is most likely part of his design. But when this happened, maybe he died and his daughter had found out about it, and she decided that she wanted to keep her father, like most children would do. If their parents died and there's a chance to keep them alive, obviously you would want to do that. So maybe she uploaded his consciousness into a host body. He hasn't figured that out yet, and he's not going to figure that out yet until he discovers or, goes down the path to the door, which may be his journey to consciousness. I don't know. Like I said, the other one's more interesting, but another possibility, and this is more than likely what a lot of people initially picked up on, was if you watch the promo for episode 9 with the captions on, when the woman speaks, it just says woman, and then at the very end of the trailer, he says no one else can see the stain except for you, and then we see a close-up of William's wife. So, the entire time in this trailer, the person he's having this conversation with could in fact be his wife. And this could be one of the major insane parts of their marriage where he reveals some of the crazy things that he's done. Maybe he revealed what truly happened with Logan the initial time they went there. Maybe he revealed to her what happened with her father and how, he's been trying to bring him back, but he's basically stuck in this matrix glitch and he's had to keep redoing this. But he could be having this conversation with his wife, which ultimately leads her into killing herself. And this brings back into my initial mention earlier on in this video, the fact that he could have wanted to go through this, I guess we could say, tremendous amount of suffering to discover his humanity again. He said everything was normal. He didn't even see it at first. His wife could always see it, but he didn't even see it at first. Then one day it's there, and then it's just like this massive burden on his back. And that's not verbatim. This is just my interpretation of it. One thing I did while watching this trailer, and this is really cool because I just love all of the music that goes along with this show, especially all of the covers of some of my favorite bands, i.e. Nirvana, especially the use of that. But I listened to the trailer by closing my eyes, right? Or I view the trailer by closing my eyes and just listening to the music and then watching, or not watching, how can I see through my eyelids? But just listening to the words, and then you kind of get more of, I can imagine him having this conversation with his wife. So at this point in the video, I'm going to be wrapping this up. I want to thank you all so much for watching. Please let me know down below what your thoughts on, if you think William is a host, if you can't wait to watch the episode at this point, maybe in a few short hours. But yeah, let me know all of that down below in the comment section. The like goal for this video will be 127. Super special shout out to every single member of my Patreon family over on patreon.com/SirHunsReviews. A special thank you goes to Terry, Lise, Vicon Stark, Sir Fife Horsbane, Mo Castilla, Ricky Lacey, Dwayne Erickson, Anne Rain, Lady Requiem, Richard Huff, Helen Lostra, Angie Delahanty, Tizania Vitale, Chris Fellows, Fred Wicks, Nancy Toxstein, Amberlynn McKay, Beth Anderson, Rocketman, Dave Gray, Helena Von Leinstein, Belladonna, Cater Tot, Juliet 402, Elder Flores, Mel of Winterfell, John Barwick, Marilyn Miller, Queen Moni, Homer Demand, The Bio Explorer, Queen of Maine, King Wolf Dom, Joe Swag, Lynn Shaw, Yubong A, Sierra Russell, Samantha Norris, Enid, and Angel. Without each and every one of you guys, these kinds of videos would not be possible. And also, super special shout out to everyone watching this video right now. I want to thank you all so much. My name's Mark. This has been Sir Hunt's Reviews.